Welcome, 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 all of you beautiful people out there who continue to tune in and listen to myself and my wonderful co-host Susan Eisenberg talk about Justice League. I cannot believe that we are in the second season, Susan.
I know, it's huge that we're still here.
They can't get rid of us.
I know. And I have to say, like, I just did a Comic-Con in Washington State, and it was so fun because so many people who came to say hello to me mentioned the podcast.
Lovely.
And not only because I had a huge sign that said, listen to the podcast. No, I did have a little sign, but people really are loving it. And we got a special shout out at one of my panels by none other than Michael Rosenbaum, who gave us a shout out and told people to listen to our podcast. So, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about us right now.
Yeah, I think we're catching on.
I think so. And the good news is we have a few more, seasons to go. So we're just starting, really. So how are you? Are you good?
Yeah, just fine. Just rolling along. I enjoy this so much. It's been such a fun experience to go back and rewatch these, knowing as I'm writing my little notes, I wonder if Susan's writing the same note I am. And then
I probably am.
Bringing our guests on and everything like that. Getting guests, booking guests, that's part of the fun of this.
And the challenge.
Yes, of
because
course.
There have been a lot of people we've reached out to and we're trying to get them. And we know that, the fans would love hearing from them, but it's not easy. It's like I have real appreciation for bookers because it's not easy. Also, I mean, you say it's fun watching the episodes, so fun, but also this one was really scary.
It was, yeah, covering Only a Dream, the first appearance of Dr. Destiny in the DC animated universe. And boy, he was creepy.
So creepy. And not only, he was creepy, but just the whole idea of this show is creepy and so well done. But boy, I mean, I just kept thinking, oof, I'm scared.
Yeah, and the cast, I mean, we had, obviously, William Atherton voiced Dr. Destiny, Fairuza Balk, who I remember as very young Dorothy Gale in one of my favorite movies, Return to Oz, which I watched. I think I still have it on VHS tape. But we had a lot of the returning cast from Superman, too. We had Dana Delaney as Lois Lane, David Kaufman as Jimmy Olsen. We had James Marsden as Snapper Carr. Clancy Brown's back as Lex Luthor. We got Mark Hamill as the Joker. We have Mark Rolston as Firefly. Perry Gilpin as Volcana, just to name a few. I mean, we'd take up an entire podcast just naming the guests for this.
And Grundy.
Yeah.
Grundy. I mean, I gotta say, every time I see Grundy and I hear Grundy, I just, he breaks my heart just a little bit. I just love Grundy. I'll save that for another episode. But yeah, huge cast. Wonder Woman's not here, much to my dismay, but I get it. And obviously they survived without her. That's the important thing.
Right. And as we know, that's sometimes they can't put every single character in every single episode. We've heard from Glenn Murakami and Rich Fogel and everything like that. But
yeah, whatever.
And it's been a while since you've seen this one, or is this one? I know Susan doesn't like to watch episodes that she's not in, folks. Just so you know, she's like, "What's the point?" As she smokes her cigarette.
Really? Right. Exactly. You always have me smoking. So this is the deal. I hadn't seen this one since I wouldn't say we recorded it because I wasn't there to record, but I hadn't seen this one since the show originally aired.
Wow.
And so it was such a treat to revisit it. Wink, wink. And I really loved it. Part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Can't wait to dive into this.
Yeah. So we've got, we were thinking about who can we bring in, because we we love having actors and, we get the directors and the writers and their perspective, which is always cool. But we like to have those special ones, like Glenn Murakami. Couldn't talk to him. That was a great special little episode we had put aside. And whenever we get to talk to someone who brings a little bit like our super fans, those episodes are always fun.
Yeah.
But this time we brought in an expert. So obviously, since we are covering Only a Dream, we could not think of a better guest than the person we've got here with us today. Dr. Travis Langley, professor of psychology, author of several noted books, and a big fan of superhero genre himself. A lot of the stuff he talks about is the psychology of superheroes. So we're very glad to have him on. Thank you for being on and digging into Only a Dream with us.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's great to talk to you at any time, but this is going to be a lot of fun, I think.
We needed help with this. So thank you for...
You needed help?
We needed expert help, I should say. because these two episodes, are really intense, and we decided to call in a professional. So thank you for being our doctor in the house today. We appreciate you.
This is one of those ones that I'd say is probably the scariest of the entire Justice League run, because every TV series has a kind of a spooky or a scary episode, but this was so well done. And I've got a bachelor degree in psychology, and I'm sitting there thinking of all the psychological aspects, but that's another reason we wanted to have you on, Dr. Langley, to really kind of dig into this. So for those of you who are listening, this is Only a Dream, episodes 5 and 6 of season 2, episodes 31 and 32 of the series overall. It aired on October 11th, 2003, written by Stan Berkowitz, directed by Butch Lukic, with a huge cast, especially for the first episode when they're going and rounding up all the villains. There's so many places I want to jump in. And Susan, do you have a good point? Because I'm like stream of consciousness here. Do you have a good point to jump in?
You know what? I think what struck me is I had not seen this episode since it originally aired, I don't think. And I'm not in it.
That's why you hadn't seen it again.
Right. If I may point out, now I know the reason for that, because we've talked to the directors and we know the reasons, and we talked to who did we talk to, James? That was explained. Well, we've talked to a few people who've explained why the whole cast couldn't be on for every episode. But so now I understand that. But I think what really struck me was how scary, like you said, it was. It really felt like a very adult, theme. The theme was very adult, and the story was very adult. And I was just imagining, how would I react to this if I were a child? Watching this, I think it would have scared me. I mean, James, you weren't a child when you first saw this. But what was your reaction when you first saw this as a younger person? Was it just, I have nightmares from this episode. It was that scary.
Yeah.
Not dreams, nightmares.
Yeah. My initial reaction was, like I said, this is one of my favorite episodes because of how dark it is. And it's tonally very different from a lot of the other episodes just in this season alone, let alone the overall run of the show. But it's got a lot of themes. The fear aspect, you could almost think about Batman being the perfect person because he's used to dealing with Scarecrow and the psychology of dealing with someone who's preying on your fears. But this was almost a notch up. Obviously, Dr. Destiny has powers beyond Scarecrow's, but just be able to go into people's minds. And I was thinking of other things as we're going through this, like the episode of Buffy, where at the very end of the season finale I believe season 4, they all fall asleep and they have like a cohesive dream, which is one of the best episodes of Buffy ever. And also Batman, when he's calling Clark Kent's apartment, he says, "Whatever you do, don't fall asleep," which made me think of Nightmare on Elm Street. So there's so many different cool things about this episode. I love the cool factor from this one, as well as the more adult, as you mentioned, Susan, themes.
Not to mention that $6 million sound effect, the $6 million sound, with the kids in that always gets me when I hear that. Doctor, please weigh in on this episode. I mean,
honestly, almost every single word you've been saying so far is just making me think of many things. But I think that's part of what stays with people about this episode. It inherently makes people think. It's I teach so many different topics, and when I'm on dreams and sleep, students ask more questions than almost anything else I ever talk about, except for sex disorders. The sleep and dreams gets them interested. They're fascinated with that because it is a great unknown. It is, of course, great unknown refers to death, but it's like, there's a question in that too. The old myth that if you die in a dream, you die in real life. They don't say that in the show, but it's like, it's implicit. We've got our cultural knowledge of Elm Street. And there's so much evoking Nightmare on Elm Street in this sucker. But we don't understand our own dreams, even if you do a lot of lucid dreaming. And the heroes are collectively uniting to be lucid here. For those who don't know, the term lucid dreaming is when you have a dream and you're aware it's a dream, and it is a useful technique. It can help fight anxiety within a dream. If people have a lot of nightmares, there are some techniques they should do to cultivate lucid dreaming, to recognize that dreams are dreams, because that can help them take the fear out of it. Like, for example, if a zombie shows up in my dreams, I know it's a dream. And they don't scare me. They annoy me for being in the way, and and I try to concentrate and make something else happen. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that doesn't. Once I just griped at the zombies, and they apologized in kind of a Cockney accent, say sorry, and actually it sounds a little more Canadian, and wandered off. And the heroes are doing some of these kind of things. They're fighting their dream. They're taking control within it. They're trying to remember, like when the Flash first realizes that this is a dream, and it switches to black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, you don't see color in your dreams, but you don't think about it. And so dreams are never in the kind of detail that they're showing. We even know this from some brain scans. And but you're not thinking about the fact that it's not color. And then when he realizes it is a dream, it loses most of the color. Maybe it's as if it had been black and white all along, but he hadn't thought about it. Who knows? There are just a lot of little touches they do in how they depict this stuff. I can just go rambling about this particular story. You mentioned Scarecrow. When you mentioned Scarecrow, there's a wonderful Batman or Batman Beyond story in which the Scarecrow is infiltrating Bruce Wayne's dreams. And he comes to realize that it is a dream, and Scarecrow is playing on fear and using dreams to play on people's fears. And when you're dreaming, there's a vulnerability, and this is getting all our heroes at their most vulnerable. Their powers don't matter. Their real powers do not matter in their dreams. They're all on an even playing field. They're all just as vulnerable. And that does go back to why Superman is not the most effective one in this, where Batman is the one who's going to emerge, because he's the most human of the bunch. And well, in terms of superpowers, because Batman says Superman's the most human. That's about personality. But he is the one who is practiced in terms of dealing with things without the powers, dealing with things when he is stripped down. And he feels vulnerable all the time, actually. He's always putting on this act of invulnerability, but he feels vulnerable, and he's conscious of these things. Otherwise, he'd have gotten himself killed a long time ago. So these other characters, when they're stripped of their powers, they're in their dreams just like anybody else, and Destiny can make anything what he wants happen. It gives one of our best Batman lines ever is when Dr. Destiny is commenting about how he doesn't have any special powers. Oh, I have one, Johnny. I never give up.
Yeah.
Right.
And that gets people quote that so often. I fit it into one of my books, I know. I did think about why Wonder Woman's not in there. Because I would love to have seen the giant kangaroos, but I was also thinking that there might be rights issues on some of the things that they think would show up in a Wonder Woman dream, or they might not be sure about what Wonder Woman would dream about, or would she be as vulnerable within a dream as what they needed the other powered heroes to be?
Well, the truth is, what we were told over and over again was how much time it took to build each one of these characters and their respective universes within the episode. And they just, look at how many guest stars are in this. So she got the boot, and I get it. Now I understand why we have episodes with 4 of the 7 or 5 of the 7. It is interesting why she specifically was left out. But and I kept expecting, because I hadn't seen it in so long, I'm like, is Wonder Woman going to save the day? Is she going to swoop in and she's going to be the heroine of this episode? But alas, she was not. And, but it was so solid even without her.
Ironically, from what I was told, Wonder Woman's greatest fear is not being included. And then she wasn't in the episode. So the definition of irony right there. But I was interested because they've got, I'm not sure if this was their fears or just the dream, but obviously the Flash, he becomes too fast. Superman becomes too powerful. The Green Lantern doesn't feel he's the same person and just an extension of the Battery. Hawkgirl, from what we see in part 1, when Luminous traps her, seems like claustrophobia is a big fear, which makes sense because she's used to taking to the sky and be able to fly. Do you think that would be, from your experience, Dr. Langley, an accurate fear for each one of those heroes to have?
Oh.
Yes and no. It's yes in terms of some of the more obvious, kind of superficial things about the characters. No, just in terms of basic humanity. I mean, the thing that scares you the most might have nothing to do with what people would think about with you. It's like heights bug the hell out of me. I hate heights. I'm not going to, drop in a fetal heap in a glass elevator like a friend of mine did when because somebody knew he had a fear of heights, so pushed him up against the glass wall and he dropped. Well, we were talking about fear of heights. And he said, I have acrophobia. That's the word. Acro, like acrobats being up there. And I said, well, no, most people think they have a phobia. Don't really. But then he described this thing and he crawls out of the elevator. I said, okay, that's a phobia. Yes. So not that is what would occur to somebody. I was about to say, that's not something that pops up in a lot of my dreams. And I thought, it popped up in one last week. I'm up on the top of the world's tallest building, trying to think how I got on the top of this tower, and then I noticed that there was part of it was orange, and that cued me. But there's no other color. This is a dream, and I'm still up here, and I still don't like being up here, even if it is a dream. But your own fears aren't necessarily the things that other people will expect. So I also think some of this is if I really want to go through, as to whatever tells a good story. No, that's not how we're looking at this. Dr. Destiny is playing on his superficial knowledge of any of them. Right. He doesn't really know these people.
Okay.
And so he's playing on what is the easiest surface fear for him to hit, or the things for him to hit based on what he knows about their powers and abilities.
I was surprised about Hawkgirl with the claustrophobia. I mean, that jumped out at me because I was like, oh, I guess that's hers. I didn't quite understand hers, that one. But it had to be that, right? It had to be claustrophobia.
Well, claustrophobia is a surprising one because the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, has 3 main phobia categories. There is social phobia, agoraphobia, and not claustrophobia, and then all others get lumped together as specific phobias, just a specific phobia term. So it doesn't list 1,000 different phobia terms. Claustrophobia is not one of the main 3 because the claustrophobic individual is able to explore the world. They're not trapped like the agoraphobic is. So it doesn't necessarily occur to you. How you probably know a lot more claustrophobic people than you realize. It's if somebody says, "Oh, I get claustrophobic in elevators," right. Even if they get in the elevator and it's bothering them, you're not there long enough for it to occur to you that this has been bothering them.
Right.
But the agoraphobic is trapped. I knew years ago. I knew this guy who worked as a lineman for a phone company, and he worked outside. His wife said he would sleep outdoors a whole lot of the time, but he was able to roam the earth. So the claustrophobe has a lot more freedom, and it does not occur to you how many people are claustrophobic.
Well, it didn't occur to me that Hawker was, so now I know.
She flies the sky. Right. Open space is where she lives so much of the time.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me. Yeah,
and when he when she wasn't allowed to fly, when he clipped her wings, as it were. I mean, he held it like that. I felt that. I mean, I literally felt that. It was so intense when she was falling from the sky. It was just felt very intense.
Well, that's also why this episode would give you nightmares. Because even if that's not your particular fear, you understand fear.
Yes.
You understand the feeling and you sympathize with these individuals as they're feeling their fear, even if that's not your fear.
100%. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And it was Glenn Murakami who was the one who really took his time explaining how these universes of each character has to be built. And so it was impossible in terms of their budget and time that they could build everyone for every single episode. So I just wanted to mention Glenn because I was blanking on Glenn's name before. So it was
Well,
Glenn Murakami.
in part two of this, you pack a lot in for each of these heroes individually.
Yes.
Part one, we get the villain story for a large part. The heroes are fighting prison breakout, but the human story in part one is the villain story. And part two, it is packed with being inside these heroes' heads.
And I have to say, William Atherton did a brilliant job in this.
Yeah.
It was just so well done. I thought everyone did a great job, everybody. And Perry Gilpin,
Oh, yeah.
in such a short order, she created and fully embodied that character. I mean, it wasn't like she had a ton of screen time. Also, Penny, I thought was dynamite. Who voiced
Fairuza
Penny?
Balk.
Was that Fairuza Balk?
That's right. Fairuza. Dynamite. And did she end up dying in the episode?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was shocked
that's a surprise.
by that. That was like, what? Because you just don't expect a character to actually die, and one that we saw and got to know on screen.
But I think that just
so
raised
that was-
the stakes. I mean, you knew that this had to happen. Jean had to get them out. So I think that just kind of ramped up the tension.
And while even you take it for granted these heroes will survive, there's still this feeling that they're at risk. That part with her dying was what made me think about that myth about how if you die in a dream, you die in real life. And I remember one student, I told my students that, no, that's not true. One of my students, her grandmother told her it was true. I was like, how would she know? I was like, you can't interview the person who died in their dream. And I always do a show of hands. How many of you ever died in a dream? And my hand goes up too. And they don't say that. They don't say that's why. They don't say why she died.
I assumed it would be like heart failure or something if she's that stressed and she's in, that's what I just assumed.
But I think that helped raise the stakes by not giving an explanation for her death. Makes it even a little scarier as they're going through with these individuals who they're at risk of dying. Like there's one point when the Flash is shutting his eyes. He's actually trying to do a technique, and you're thinking, is he getting close to death? And it's like, that's not what was going on, but you can't help but think about that at times during part two.
No, for sure. Yeah. And Flash really was one of those characters, like you said, who really thought he was having a dream. Like he kept waiting to wake up. He kept that was just so great, that because I've had those dreams where I know it's a dream. And I've even had dreams where I wake myself up because it's like enough. It's enough.
I love
time to get up.
Michael's delivering that line, hey, this is just a dream. And here's where the Swedish bikini team comes in to wake me up.
Right.
Very Flash.
Yeah. And Stan, I suppose. Yeah. So the other thing I was going to say was with these characters, and I'm so reminded of this every time we watch an episode, the vulnerability, like you said, even though they're superheroes, in every episode, there's always a risk where you're like, gosh, they're really in trouble here. And, but I think there is a safety in knowing that by the end of the episode, they will be okay. So as scary as it gets, you do know that at the end, the 7 will be triumphant. I mean, don't we know that? Don't we know that as we're watching, that it will be okay at the end?
I know they could always Tasha Yar, one of the crew. So,
what'd you say?
That's part of what is what really works with fiction, the popularity of fiction, is that we get to look at some of the things that matter to us, maybe that scare us, or that are important in other ways in life, whether it's relationships or whatever. And there is that filter of fiction where there is that safety. One, it can't affect you personally. And then there's where, okay, our favorite characters are at least usually protected by plot armor. And so, and having that safety with it lets you engage this part of you that wants to think about the things that you're scared of. How do you face your fears? How do you face a crisis?
Mhm.
And some topics are harder to do that. Nobody's going to do, Ebola, the animated movie, because that's not a fun way to explore your fears.
I'm going to write that down, though.
You can do zombies, you can do superheroes, you can do dragons. The more fantastic they are, sometimes the greater potential they have to explore in-depth human topics. They also have to be more human when they're more fantastic.
One of the things that this show does so well, like even though I said there is a safety net in that we know it's a cart, like we know that these 7 are going to triumph in the end, there's always that button at the end where the villain is like, ha, 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 I'll be back, and it's always like, it just always gives you chills. And it's so great in terms of that genre, like just when you think you're safe, it's the call is coming from inside the house. It's just, it's that you think the body, you think the person's dead, and all of a sudden, they come up from the bathtub water and with the knife, it's so genius because it allows you to relax and then, oh no, they'll be back. And I loved that at the end.
And I remember when I first saw this episode, I was thinking when Batman's physically fighting John D in the warehouse and Batman goes to pick up the crate, I originally thought, oh my gosh, he's going to be gone. And he won't, as opposed to him actually being there with the vial in his chest.
Right.
I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to be gone and we're going to cut away. And Batman actually did fall asleep. I was kind of waiting for that upon my first viewing of this. But I'm sure time.
And they messed with your expectations by that. We expected Batman to fall asleep.
Yeah.
We did. We expected him to fall asleep. They're skirting it, getting close to it, and he's getting punchy.
Yeah.
And of course they explained it in terms of the closer he gets to John D, the more John has the power to infiltrate even your dreams. But you're having trouble staying awake. You get susceptible to whether it's a hypnagogic hallucinations or just little twitches of the brain where something moves in the corner of your eye.
Wait, what's hypnagogic mean?
Hypnagogic is it's right, or hypnagogic depending on who's pronouncing the word.
Okay.
It's right at the edge of sleep. When you're right at the very edge of sleep, you are particularly susceptible to hallucinations, or you start to have some thoughts in your head that are a bit more vivid, dreamlike, while you're not actually asleep yet, or and your senses are falling asleep at different rates. So, in any state of sensory deprivation, you're more susceptible to hallucinations. So, like that sudden falling sensation you have right at the edge of sleep at times.
Yes.
That's because of that confusional arousal, or suddenly hearing a sound right when you're at the edge of sleep. So there's these little susceptible things. You're susceptible to things that are kind of like hallucinations, but not normally as vivid. And so this is some of what they're getting. Batman's punchy. He's starting to have some stuff intrude with Destiny's powers actually working on him, even when he's still struggling to stay awake.
Personally, I love dreams where I'm falling. I love it. What does that say about me? Am I just a weirdo?
You know what, James? We're going to save that question until after.
We'll take off air.
After this episode. Right. We're going to keep the doctor on, and then you and I can ask him all our personal questions later, because I have a lot of questions.
Speaking of questions, I'm just going to bounce over to Twitter, because we did get a lot of since
there's some good ones over on
perfect
Twitter.
Segue. Let me just open up the Justice League Revisited Twitter account here and see what we've got. Let's see. For the first one, our friend Girl with Cello says this was such a great episode. What do you think the Justice League would dream of today? And what dream do you have for the future? I'm assuming she's just directing that to our guest, Dr. Travis Langley. So do you have a dream for the future?
Are we talking our world or the story world?
Let's say our world.
Our world, I dream of people getting smarter, or of the anti-intellectual trends losing enough that because I don't want to get into politics. Absolutely do not want to
No,
get
let's
into
not.
politics.
Yeah.
But there's always been an anti-intellectual distrust, but there's some more vocal elements pushing that. Well, it's like the not trusting science, not trusting people with education, and being stubbornly ignorant about things, and to the point that there's a growth in flat earthers. Although not as much as people make it sound like. There's an impression of more of an increase, but there are people people not saying, I don't believe science. And it's okay, you can question it, but how long do I go on this one?
No, that's fine. No, we don't want to put you on the spot. That
But
was fine. You answered the question.
a dream for the world is I want to overcome some of that.
Yeah. Well, me too.
Now, in terms of what the Justice League would dream now, are we talking Zack Snyder's Justice League? Or are we talking comic book Justice League? Although comic book Justice League, they're taking a break right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have much going. So, yeah, I'd say I would assume that hopefully Hawker will never dream of having her wings clamped again or or being buried alive. That's kind of a weird thing. But
odds are she would have another. I mean, the things that bother you in your dreams, if they bother you in your dreams once, they'll probably pop up again.
Well, and that was one of my questions, because I myself, Susan, I have recurring dreams. I mean, the same theme over. There are like 3 themes, and they just repeat over and over again. Doctor, what do you make of that? Is that very typical where you have
that's very normal?
Yeah.
Especially if you remember your dreams a little more than average, you're going to be aware of those. It's like everybody spends 20 to 25% of the night dreaming, and most people do not remember 2 hours worth of dreams per night, even those of us who remember them a lot. But people who remember their dreams more than those who say, I don't dream, well, they're wrong. But it just means they don't remember them. So they're not going to be aware of the recurring things. And your dreams will even cue you. Something in a dream will remind you of a previous dream and make that recurring dream come up. I had one that just annoyed me so much. And that was one where I really had to teach myself to be conscious that meant it was a dream, so that it would stop annoying me so much when it would come up.
So we can practice that. We can get better at doing that.
There's several different techniques. One is just keeping a dream journal.
Right.
It was like as soon as you wake up, you write down your dreams, because you lose most of the detail pretty quickly, and then you revise them in your head. You remember them a little differently later on. It's one thing about keeping a dream journal. And you later on you go, oh, I had a dream that was exactly that, and you check the journal. It's like, oh, that's not exactly what that dream was. It's like, the day that happened, I dreamed about it, and you go, like, no, that was 2 weeks earlier. So a dream journal, but making you more conscious of your dreams, making you think about your dreams at the edge of sleep, which kind of waking up is. And thinking about dreaming itself while going to sleep, and doing some reality checking, asking yourself sometimes, is this a dream? There are several different techniques for increasing lucid dreams, and for something like I got tired of lucid dreams. I had so many lucid dreams. I was tired of these things that didn't matter, having a conversation with somebody. Oh, you don't matter. You're just a dream. Or this is a cool thing and I don't get to keep it. So I actually kind of taught myself to have them less often, but there's still a few topics. If zombies show up, I want to remember it's a dream. I keep using that example because I have a bunch of zombie dreams.
Okay, clearly.
Do they ever do the Michael Jackson
I like zombie
dance?
TV shows and video games.
Do any of the zombies in your dreams do the Michael Jackson Thriller dance?
No,
so that's disappointing.
No, not that I recall.
That's disappointing. We've got a question from Barnett Brown III on Twitter, which I'm going to direct to Susan. What do you think Wonder Woman's dream/nightmare would have been?
Oh, anything to do with man's world, I think. A loss of sisterhood and the destruction of being in a man's world forever and ever and ever without any break, without any hope. That's the first thing that pops into my mind. Oh, Wonder Woman. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Susan. Okay. Sorry. Sometimes they bleed into each other. I can't help
Of
it.
course.
No, I think it would be the same for both of us. I know it's, um,
And Wonder Woman's about the mentally healthiest one in the bunch, which also could be one of the she probably doesn't have as many fears. And of course, she has fears, but she probably doesn't have as many as some individuals. I think that could be another reason for her to have been one that got left out.
oh, I'm going to
That would
stick
make
with that.
sense,
I love
yeah.
that. I love that idea. I love that. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for that.
Well, that's why it took me so long to do my Wonder Woman book. People have been asking for several years if I would ever do one about Wonder Woman. It's like, well, she's mentally healthy. But then I got, well, it's like, focus on that. Focus on the psychology of being mentally healthy. Her creator, a psychologist, criticized the whole field for focusing on mental illness without looking at what it meant to be healthy. And of course, his lifestyle is a separate issue, but he creates her a very healthy character.
Mm-hmm.
We have at _real world, REEL world. I'm going to direct this one to our doctor in-house. Which member of the Justice League do you think would make the most difficult patient?
Bruce.
Yeah, that's a slam. That seems, I mean, he's so impenetrable or so, ish. I mean, he puts up such a wall. I mean, that's one of the things I love about Wonder Bat is that, she has always seemed to see things in him that, he's not comfortable sharing. So yeah, he's so,
and he's one, you'll see this with some people who go through what we call post-traumatic growth. They've gone through trauma. They may have had full PTSD, or at least they'll have some symptoms, but especially hanging on to it. They hang on to their pain more than other people, but they use it to help them grow and grow as people and find purpose. And some of them are not going to reach the highest level of enlightenment because they feel like letting go of the pain that motivates them would be selfish. And he is one who would resist therapy for himself while encouraging it in others, but he would resist it in himself. One, he has trouble trusting anybody, but also he feels like letting go of that pain might make him less effective. And so he has a lot of reasons why he'd be the worst one in the bunch for therapy.
How much time have you spent, would you say, on analyzing these characters?
Well, I was born a nerdy child.
Right.
And I never stopped. If you ask when I discovered comics, I show you a photo of me at 9 months looking at one of my mom's comic books.
Okay.
But I've spent, well, it wasn't until I know when I got the idea for the Batman book. And it took me about 3 years of thinking about it before I started doing the work on it. And I mean, it's with me. As fans, we think about questions. Why are they doing this? How's this affecting them all the time? And but once I wrote my book on Batman and Psychology, A Dark and Stormy Night.
Well,
the best book on Batman ever written by me.
I'm so glad you said that because I was like, yes, why don't you mention the title so people who are listening can go grab it? And also, I loved that it was your mom who was the comic book fan.
Yeah,
it was. It was my mom. I have her old comic books. She didn't have Batman in her old comic books. She had Superman. But I remember her showing me Batman comic when I was little. Neil Adams' art motivated me to learn to read so I could read that for myself. And it's about Superman and I remember. I mean, I remember the first appearance of Wonder Woman in a Brady Kids cartoon, and was fascinated with these heroes. And so I've always been interested in what brings out the best and worst in people. So this has always been very important to me as an individual. And then the superheroes and supervillains, they become this, pure is not the good way to do it, but this cleaner, purer way of looking at these issues. Where it's not quite as complicated as when we look at real life heroes and villains, and we can think about these and talk about them, and it's safer with a fictional character because also you go, well, the big question, which version? It's like, well, that actually makes it easier to talk about in some ways because say a a bike riding champion gets busted for doping and disappointing people who'd hero worshipped him, you can't just go, "That's not my Lance Armstrong." But you can go say, "Oh, I don't like what happened in that movie. That's not my Batman. That's not my Wonder Woman."
Oh,
I got
interesting.
some issues with what Snyder did with Wonder Woman in the long version of Justice League, and we can talk about those issues more freely sometimes. But when I talk about real life crime in forensic psychology, when I'm teaching that, some of the topics are so brutal that it's hard for somebody to stay with me through the brutality to the point that I'm trying to teach about it. I can talk about the same things with a fictional example, and somebody stays with me through that story and through what we're talking about. I've got friends who are therapists who their client, or my wife's the therapist, she'll have a client who isn't ready to talk about her own personal problems yet, but we'll talk about this TV show where the characters have some of the same problems. So she'll talk about those problems with the characters where she's not really ready to talk about them with themselves. So for me, I did not lose sight of Susan's original question, but for me, I think about these things all the time. And I've got 15 books. Most of them are anthologies where other people are joining me. It's such as Wonder Woman Psychology, Lassoing the Truth. Later this year, The Handmaid's Tale, Seeing Off Red, which is the toughest one we've had to work on because that's not fun subject matter. Right. But I think we're saying some of our most important things. Half of the books are on comic book characters. The other half are on other fictions that I want to talk about. But they're meaningful to people in different ways. And I end up thinking about this stuff a whole lot of the time.
I want to make sure as we wrap up here too that we do tell people, if they're now hearing you and they're hearing about these books, what's the best place to send people? Is it your website? Is it where would you go for people to want to learn more about you and get some of your products and books and other articles you've written and things like that?
Amazon's the easiest way to find the books.
Okay.
They want to see some of the other articles I've written. My Psychology Today blog has about 160 articles I've posted over the years there. It used to be that the easiest way to chat with me online was through Twitter. As I honestly think that was the first time Susan and I talked way back when, was through Twitter.
Yep.
And it used to be, I'm in the top 10 most followed psychologist on Twitter for whatever that thing's worth now. But Twitter hasn't been fun for a while. Facebook's I like Instagram, but it's hard to have a conversation there.
Yes.
Facebook is the easiest one to have a conversation.
Okay, so if you're listening right now and you're like, boy, I need to find out more about this I want to read these books. Obviously, we'll have the link to that. If you're listening to this, go down to the show notes. We'll put a link to Dr. Travis Langley's website, and we'll have some other of his book links in there as well. This has been great because, like I said, having that little bit of a kernel of the psychology knowledge that you have, I was just fascinated by this episode, and there was immediately like, let's get him on for this one. So this has been absolutely fantastic, and I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your Friday to join us and break down Only a Dream.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, when you asked, I immediately said yes. I love talking to both of you, and this is a particularly fun episode to play with.
And we needed to bring a professional in. So thank you for being that professional. We so appreciate it.
I've enjoyed it. And I just noticed, man, we've been at this long.
It flies by, believe me.
It does. It does. Well, thank you. And to be continued. We'll talk again, I'm sure.
I'll be glad to.
Thanks so much. That was fun. That was fun to talk to an expert like that.
Can I get off the couch now, though? I'm so comfortable. No, I'm kidding. That was so fun. This was your idea. You thought of him right away when we were discussing this episode. And I have to say, genius.
Yeah,
genius idea.
Every so often. I usually have 2 good ideas a year. So,
well, thanks for using them on our show. I appreciate it. We needed a professional, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, to figure out that episode was, woo, I'm tired now.
Don't fall asleep, whatever you do.
Oh, good one. Good one. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I hope the fans will, I think they'll enjoy that as well. And he knows his stuff. That's what I'll say.
We had a question come in too from our friend DT2 Comics, and I didn't get to ask it, but it's what would Batman's contingencies be against Dreamwalkers? I think we saw it. I think we saw it in the episode, him having that song in his head, that little thing to keep him out. I think it's one of the we know from the first intro in the episode that he'd already been without sleep for 3 days. So he was already a little bit, I think had he been at his peak, this would have been a walk in the park for him. He wouldn't have been.
He was already a little batty.
Yeah. Very
Get
nice.
it?
Very
Get
nice.
it?
Look at you
Hey-o,
with the puns.
hey-o. All right. Well, another one in the can, and I'm thrilled and delighted. And should we give people we should tell people to subscribe.
Please.
And to the podcast, because we love that. And please leave a review because that helps us. And we read every single one of the reviews. So please do that. And should we tell people where they can find us in case they want to? Okay, so
Amazon's
I'm at
first, yes.
Susan Eisenberg Voice is the website, and SusanEisenbergVoice.com is the website. And then on all the socials, it's Susan Eisenberg with the number 1. So it makes it easy.
Very simple.
And
and your website's gorgeous. I got to say again, your website's gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. Okay, so how do people reach you?
They can go to geek2meradio.com. That's the landing page for all of my stuff. You can find my social links there, past episodes of my own radio show that we do every Sunday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We're live. You can find us on youtube.com/geek2meradio. If you just want to listen to the radio, you can go to ktrs.com/stream. And of course, follow me on socials at Geek to Me Radio on Twitter and Instagram, facebook.com/Geek to Me Radio. I would appreciate you following, subscribing, and keeping up with me with what all this wacky stuff I do.
And it's a lot of wacky stuff. I don't mind saying. All right, so we're done today, and we're off for our weekend. And so let's just tell everyone thank you for listening, and stay tuned because the conversation continues.